Thank you for being here today. I hope you're ready for a full day of discussions, debates, as interesting as yesterday. I'm here on behalf of Reporters Without Borders. I head the new media desk for the organization, and it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the organization. We've been these past years providing assistance not only to journalists, but since we defend freedom of the press, and freedom of the press is also the right to inform and to be informed, we've been working more and more with bloggers, trying to assist bloggers in jail, attacked, threatened around the world. And we will continue to do so. If you are aware of cases we haven't covered or people who need our assistance, feel free to come up to me after this panel to bring those cases to me. Thank you. So today's topic, crossing borders, is internet a danger or a blessing? We'll be basically getting back to the original idea of the World Wide Web as an open space for discussion, information sharing. We will be wondering if internet has helped activists to spread their message, people to build bridges to understand each other. We will be also wondering if it has somehow exacerbated some cultural differences, if it has provoked more governments backlash, and so on. So we have a fantastic group of panelists here to discuss some of these issues, internet as a tool for freedom or a tool for repression as well. Some of the issues that we will want to explore during this panel are when dealing with the internet, do the governments of their countries look at certain governments and practices, and if so, which impact does it have on their policy towards the internet? We will also be wondering where are we today of this constant fight between activists, dissidents, freedom advocates and governments. Are governments outsmarting those dissidents, or are they through internet finding new ways to actually foster their causes? So I'm just gonna first of all let our Egyptian speaker today, Esraa Rashid, tell us a little bit more about Egypt. And she's an Egyptian activist, internet activist. She's been arrested several times. She's going to share with us her experience of using the internet for activism, and also tell us a little bit more about how the Egyptian government crafts its internet strategy. And I would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute today to this Egyptian blogger who's in jail, Karim Amer. So we all think of Karim today.
Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to talk with you about my experience in Egypt. First of all, I think in Egypt we have our own model. We don't look to other countries as a guidance for us. The government doesn't affected positively or negatively by the others' government behavior. But nowadays, I can say that in Egypt, the Facebook is playing a major role in our political life. So we always scared that the government might block it, as what happens in Syria. But our regime always caring of its image towards the international society by claiming to be a democratic one. Though I don't think that it will be blocked in any way. Regarding to the next point, the government is generally not as smart as bloggers and the activists. They are only using spying on bloggers, saying what they say and what they planned to do. Arrested some like Karim Amer, the case of Karim Amer, who is still arrested because of his beliefs on religions, who writes in his own blog. He's expected to be free at the end of this year, but without any secure future, as his father wanted to kill him and his faculty was dismissed him. Also the case of Tal al-Melouhi in Syria. Blocking other bloggers, as the case of Ahmed Mustafa, who is facing or arrested under military court, although he is civilian, and he was released before his trial because of the online Egyptian activism effort in seeking for international solidarity of his release. On the other hand, the government failed in continue arresting 30 bloggers in Naga Hammadi. When he went to Naga Hammadi, they went to Naga Hammadi to condolence as a Christian who lost his relatives in Christmas Day. And because this activists using internet and the new media, at the moment they were arrested, all the world knows that what happened to them, and a lot of statements were issued calling for the freedom for us. Also the case of Khalid Said in Egypt. This case, the regime cannot do anything with it. The case of Khalid Said is launching from internet, from new media. They using the photo for Khalid Said before and after his torture. They using the video of the witness. The bloggers used to upload these videos through the internet. And when they upload these photos, the case were published everywhere. Everyone know what has happened to Khalid Said. These campaigns is very, very successful through internet, and in result of that, it will be very, very successful in offline, not on online also. And the point here is, until now, no one from the opposition side and the government side know who is the one to create the page, which contains now about 300,000 members. No one from the government and from the opposition know who creates this paper, these campaigns. Let us know what is the government using online against the bloggers. They sometimes using its own young people, makes a campaign by creating a group in a Facebook against activism and bloggers. The aim of this group is destroying their image in Egyptian eyes. They describing us like agents who is working with international organizations against Egypt's sake. But the reaction of the opposition is just a young girl from the oppositions hacking this group, and they closed it and changed its name to being Egyptian state security fortressing people. We already don't have enough freedom of expression, especially after expression. And this is the case, is what happened in 6 April 2008. We make the first campaign using internet, calling people for make general strike for this day. In the day of the strike, all activists and the bloggers who participate in online campaigns and in offline campaigns were arrested this day. And we are expected more and more wars from the government. And by the time of the parliament and presidential election, especially since we are working now in launching Shahidi in Arabic for the first time in Egypt. Shahidi is a website or platform using new media and Google Map to monitor election at the same time they happened. We are expecting that the government will block this platform in the day of election. Not only that, but maybe it will stop mobile connection in that day, and we try to plan for that. Thank you for the opportunity to give me to hear me. Thank you.
On conflict topics and so on. So, please.
Sorry, I will speak in Russian, and I will need the support of my friend Masha. Азербайджан находится в регионе Южного Кавказа.
Azerbaijan is located in the South Caucasus.
Это уникальное место, где очень много границ и где все против всех.
This is a unique place where we have a lot of borders and everyone is against everyone.
С 1988 года между Азербайджаном и Арменией существует конфликт.
Starting from 1988, we have a conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Это территориальный конфликт из-за региона, который называется Карабах.
This is a territorial conflict for Karabakh region.
На данный момент, в 1994 году было подписано соглашение о прекращении огня.
In 1994, the agreement to stop fire was signed.
16 лет прошли более-менее спокойно.
The 16 years were more or less in peace.
Но в этом году возможность вероятности войны стала очень и очень серьезной.
But this year we have a possibility of the new war.
Существует общественный заказ на то, чтобы войну решить, конфликт решить не миром, а войной.
There is a societal order to solve this conflict with war.
И с 1988 года идет информационная война между сторонами.
And we have also informational war started from 1988.
Это беспощадная война, очень серьезная война.
This is a very serious and rough war.
И интернет является очень самым серьезным инструментом в этой войне.
And internet is the most important weapon in this war.
Потому что стороны могут выплескивать свои самые негативные эмоции.
Because the counterparties can express their most negative emotions there.
Цензура не мешает, международные организации с этим ничего не могут поделать.
There is no censorship, and international organizations can do nothing about it.
Стороны активно занимаются хакерством против друг друга.
Situation with hackers is flourishing as well.
Стороны банят сайты.
They ban websites.
То есть азербайджанская сторона банит армянские сайты, армянская сторона азербайджанские.
So Azerbaijani part bans Armenian and vice versa.
Блогеры в этом случае являются новыми игроками.
Bloggers are new players in this case.
Их потенциал не исчерпан, неизведан.
They have new potential.
И я думаю, что так как старые инструменты себя изжили,
since the old instruments are no longer working,
стороны и международные организации могут обратить внимание именно на блогеров.
International organizations and counterparts pay attention to bloggers.
А при этом надо отметить, что и журналисты, и блогеры между сторонами, к счастью, наладили обмен информацией.
Journalists and bloggers have an exchange of information between counterparts.
Есть контакты, и они зачастую носят не вражеский, а достаточно партнерский характер.
There are some contacts, and mainly they have a peaceful role.
Во всех странах, ну, может, Грузия отличается, есть проблемы с блогерами, с активистами.
Many countries have problems with bloggers, and Georgia is one of the examples as well.
Но когда где-то что-то плохое происходит с блогерами или журналистами, другая сторона не радуется.
But when something bad happens to bloggers, the other party shouldn't be happy about it.
Потому что плохой пример, он может быть заразителен.
Because the bad example, like the bad situation can happen in your country as well.
И то, что если что-то с блогерами происходит плохое в Азербайджане, потом в Армении могут сказать, а почему у них можно, а у нас нельзя, и наоборот.
For instance, if something bad happens to blogger in Azerbaijan, in neighboring countries, they may wonder why shouldn't we do the same in our country.
Мы сегодня говорим о интернете и границах национальных.
So we're talking about internet and national borders.
К сожалению, у нас не граница, у нас в нашем регионе интернет ограничивается линией фронта.
Unfortunately, we don't have borders, and internet is separated by the war zone, the front line.
Front line. Хотя у паука национальности не бывает, просто мы его сделали плохим инструментом.
But the net doesn't have a nationality. We just made it as a bad weapon, a bad tool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm now going to turn to Supinya Klangnarong. She's coordinator with the Thai Netizen Network, and she's going to share with us some of these examples of censorship in our country and the national and international aspect of the internet.
Thanks you, Lucie, and good morning, friends here and also colleagues and friends around the world and in Thailand who are watching live stream on this panel today. Thanks Google and Central European University for giving me opportunity to speaking about what has happened in Thailand. And especially I would like to make this opportunity to give a tribute to some of Thai people who still remain in jail simply because they're expressing idea and comments on the internet, and they were arrested and detained. And especially I have also my colleague who's sitting there. She also being charged under the Cybercrime Act in Thailand as an intermediary. So I think in Thailand now, internet freedom in Thailand is in the limelight for the global community, especially after 2006. This month, 19 September, 4 years ago, there was a military coup without expectation from any group. We expected there would never have been military coup taken place in Thailand since we gone so far for a democratic country. But unfortunately, the military still play a very important role in Thai politics. And after the coup, internet became a forefront for political debate in Thailand. Fighting for freedom of expression shifted from the traditional media, print media or broadcast media into the internet. And after that, the Computer Crime Act has been enacted in Thailand, and until now, approximately, I think not less than 10 cyber dissidents have been detained in Thai prison. And also political turmoil that has been ongoing in Thailand last year and this year. If you follow news, there is a fighting on the street between protesters and also military. And there's a crisis happened April last year and this year. And that's why it allowed government to implement a special law called the state of emergency or emergency decree since April 7th this year. And until now in Thailand, especially in Bangkok, the state of emergency is still implemented. And with this state of emergency, it allows government to censor a lot of websites and arrest many people. I will talk about this later in the second round, but I would like to make a point here that Thailand is similar in other countries, that even though we are quite open and democratic country, but somehow we still have limitation in expression. We are free to talk about something, but we are not free to talk about the other thing. And this is a dilemma in Thai society. And for the government to uphold the principle of national security and civil liberty, the government always using tough law in the name of national security. But some of our group trying to say that the government should uphold civil liberty or cyber liberty. But at the same time, since Thailand is polarized and we have two major groups, the majority still consider conservative, the new generation consider liberal. So I think this is the crash of this kind of idea ongoing in Thailand. And somehow, even though we try to ask government that you should uphold cyber liberty, but the government claim that if they don't block the website, don't arrest the dissident who saying something bad against the established power, the government also will be attacked by the people. I think this is the dilemma in many countries in the world, and Thailand also is in a crossroad. Even though the government tried to block 100,000 of websites and arresting many people, but somehow it cannot stop people from talking about sensitive issues. So eventually, Thailand have to make a choice. Thai authority have to make a choice whether they will go east or they will go west. Go east, it means maybe they can follow Chinese model, have to use more tougher and more repressive law in order to suppress the dissident. Go west, it means they have to accept and open our country to be more liberal and more open in a way. But I don't think either way it's practical for Thailand right now, because because Thailand can never apply Chinese model because people are too open or too liberal, but Thailand can never be too open or too liberal like the West because people still concerned on some sensitive issue that they don't want to talk in public, especially the issue that related to the monarchy that the most sensitive in Thai society. So I don't have clear answer to give to the government either. What should be the compromising way or moderate way in order to regulate internet in Thailand? But personally, I believe in open society, open discussion, and understanding and tolerance among people. And I believe in the power of communication that it will solve the conflict rather than widening the conflict. But since the government doesn't think this way, and many Thai people also do not think this way, so if you have a suggestion or clear answer, what should be a solution for a country like Thailand, that would be very great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm now going to turn to Carlos Alfonso. He's too modest to acknowledge it, but he's been known as the father of the Brazilian internet, even if he doesn't like to be labeled this way. He's done amazing work in developing infrastructure in the country and educating people on new media. He's going to give us an interesting perspective on the internet, the rise of the internet, and more generally speaking, the communications. I'll let you start.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you to organizers for this opportunity. We are in a marathon coming from the IGF in Lithuania, and I would like to not to speak about Brazil. There's so many details and so many interesting and uninteresting cases we have regarding the development of the Brazilian internet, the effort to do a Bill of Rights, the principles that my organization, CGI.br, tried to elaborate, and the rewriting of the copyright law, which is happening as well in Canada and other countries. All these processes are going on, but too many things to talk about. I would like to actually, starting in 1867, none of us were born, no? In the Philadelphia Centennial Exhibition, in 1867, sorry, a certain Alexander Graham Bell demonstrated his invention of the telephone for the first time. The first caller in the demonstration was Dom Pedro II, Emperor of Brazil, who also helped fund the invention. That was about 143 years ago. About 123 years later, groups of NGOs from several countries experimenting with new email technologies and bulletin board systems oriented to social development gathered together in San Francisco and founded in May 1990 the Association for Progressive Communications. These NGOs were pioneering the foundation of networking in their countries and were also pioneers of the internet as a public service in their regions. In some cases, they were operating illegally, either because the government would not allow them other than state companies, would not allow other than state companies to operate such services. In some cases, BBSs were completely illegal, or even because the use of any protocol other than OSI-ISO for data transmission was considered illegal, like in the case of Brazil. No? Or even you had to register any modem and device for data transmission with the government and pay a heavy fee. What a contrast from the 1867, no? And the whole process of developing telecommunications in the world. Until then, revolutions in communications came strictly from above. An emperor was the first person to officially make a phone call. The internet in many ways came and consolidated itself from below and flourished in each society in interaction with the specificities of these societies. So the technical complexity of the network of networks, which is the internet today, which resulted, was compounded by extremely diverse social, cultural, and political environments in which each of these networks, of the network of networks, evolved. David Sauter has written with a colleague a good paper for IISD, the International Institute for Social Development, Sustainable Development, sorry, in which he compares the complexities of this evolving of the internet in our societies with the questions and challenges societies are confronted with regarding climate change. One of his conclusions, among many, is that as the consequences of climate change in our future are hard to predict, so is the future of the internet and its relation to the constituted nation states. This is the statement I would like to do to spark a discussion regarding these complexities. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. I'm pretty sure the audience will want to follow up on this issue. I'd like to ask you one quick question, and I'm going to ask all of you to be very brief so we can go to the audience for questions. Regarding Brazil, could you tell us a little bit more about what kind of impact the internet had, positive or negative, on the Brazilian society, and vice versa? What sort of impact do you think the Brazilian blogosphere, who's pretty striving, has been having on the World Wide Web?
Okay. Hello? Okay. Well, Brazil is a case, a very good case in certain respects, like the way in which the internet evolved there. And it was the work of some academics with some civil society organizations. And we had to confront the state monopoly of telecommunications, in which they believed that only one provider, internet services provider, should exist in the country, and would be the National Telecommunications Authority. This was in the late 80s when we started our first project of connecting small BBSs in Brazil to the internet through a UCP connection to San Francisco. Actually to the University of California. And this process in which civil society got involved in the development of the internet, and finally we managed to create the Internet Steering Committee as a sort of multi-stakeholder organization, etc., was really a combination of different sectors participating from the beginning. It was not something that came, as I said, from above. And the result was that we have this participation in the whole process of development of the legal aspects, the regulatory aspects of the internet. Public consultations now are going on regarding the Bill of Rights, the Internet Steering Committee of Brazil, which runs the .br domains, the cctld.br, made a proposal of 10 principles for the use and the regulation of the internet. And these 10 principles were built in a multi-stakeholder environment, which took more than a year for us to write them. And as a result, it's not perfect. It has the imperfections of building something by consensus in a multi-stakeholder environment. But it's today the basis for building our Bill of Rights of the internet in Brazil, which is being carried out by several ministries together with civil society organizations. Also, a process regarding other aspects, very important aspects of the internet, like the copyright law, which is in Brazil is a very backward, very outdated law. It's being rewritten with very interesting aspects regarding the treatment of DRM in relation to the dates in which the copyright work becomes public domain and so on. And I think these are interesting aspects which are a result of the work of society together with government and all the sectors, always discussing the process, and was not easy, is not being easy. There is always contradictions, of course, in this process. The internet today in Brazil covers about 38% of the population. We have about 200 million people, and about only 8% of the homes have broadband, which is one of the most expensive broadbands in the world. Okay. Yeah, a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure. The audience will have some questions for you. Really quickly, Supinya, I wanted to touch a little bit on the issue of last spring's events in Thailand. Do you think that the censorship of the media and of the internet from the government under the emergency decree, do you think it was somehow justified because the hate speech that was going on over the internet, or that it was over the top and that the government went too far? And what's left now?
Yes, I accepted that in Thailand, hate speech also spread over the internet during the political conflict because people just fighting each other by words, and sometimes it could violate other right or other user. But the government also went too far in terms of censorship, as I was mentioning earlier, that that in the name of national security and public order, so that is an excuse for the government to just block any website. Earlier, under the Cybercrime Act, in order for blocking the website, the government need to get a court order. But now, under the state of emergency, they just go blocking any website, and also even some of the Facebook pages. The government don't block Facebook or Twitter, the whole page right now, but they block some of the pages, and that somehow violated freedom of expression online a lot. And it's justified for some of the public, as I just mentioned earlier, because Thai people also feeling upset with all the political turmoil, and they thought that because Thai people enjoy so much freedom and hate speech around, so that's why it seemed justifying for the government to do so. So we don't hear much criticism against the censorship from the general public. Only few groups raising concern on this, because somehow I have to understand Thai people who really, really not happy with this as well. But as I mentioned earlier, that the way that the government tried to censor website is not going to help anyway, such as the case of Prasha Thai, my colleague is here. If she doesn't mind, maybe later I would like her to speak in this panel. Her website also currently blocked, but somehow the readers increasing triple times or even more than that, and herself also facing the lawsuit that she could be sentenced to jail up to 50 years as an intermediary under the Cybercrime Act. Ms. Jiranut Premchayaporn, who's sitting here, maybe later if she would like to speak. That's somehow very frustrating and disturbing in Thai society, but as I mentioned earlier, that since people in Thai society have two different ideas, and the idea that censorship must be done now prevalent or dominating in Thai society.
A quick question for Esraa as well. We talked about the international solidarity earlier today. Do you think that the international attention that is being brought on activists in Egypt is helping, or that it's also justifying more repression from the government?
I think that international solidarity in Egypt is helping in a lot of cases because of in a cases of the bloggers when they were arrested, they helping for relieving them in a way or other. Because the international solidarity, maybe I want to mention WYMD, World Youth for Democratic. These organizations and the others, they always be online with us when any activist or any blogger was arrested. They make a statement, and they also send this case for the policymakers, maybe in America or Europe. And a lot of statements published and issued calling for the freedom for these bloggers, and there will be some response from the Egyptian government. Maybe they erased, as it happens in Naga Hamadi and for Ahmed Mustafa and other cases. But I think the international solidarity have a good support in the issues of human rights, who are arrested and who was tortured in jail and something like that. But we cannot put that is real international solidarity for political reform. We always talking about that is we are now in a deep need for the change of constitution in Egypt, for, as we are going to have a parliament election and the presidential election, no one can allow to go through the presidential election, but Gamal is the son of Hosni Mubarak. So we are calling for international solidarity for democratic issues as well as the issues of the human rights.
One last quick question for Kanan. I was in Azerbaijan with several NGOs to investigate the situation of freedom of expression earlier this month, and we felt like a deep sense of pessimism amongst journalists, whereas bloggers and online journalists were a little bit more optimistic. Do you think that the internet can be somehow what can help the Azerbaijani people to get better information because they may be a little less subject to self-censorship, or what's your take on this?
Конечно, развитие интернета дало новые возможности обществу.
Of course, the development of internet gave new opportunities for the society.
Потому что люди получили возможность доступа к альтернативной информации.
Because people got an access to alternative sources of information.
На данный момент это сфера электронных средств массовой информации, интернет-средств массовой информации достаточно контролируема.
Nowadays, the internet field is controlled.
Неконтролируемая часть имеет финансовые проблемы, потому что рынок рекламы ограничен и также контролируем.
The sectors which are not controlled have some financial problems.
Нетронутая часть — это блогеры.
Bloggers are on the safe side.
Блогеров в Азербайджане есть два типа блогеров.
There are two types of bloggers in Azerbaijan.
Это азербайджаноязычные блогеры и русскоязычные блогеры.
Those who blog in Azerbaijani and in Russian.
Азербайджаноязычная блогосфера общается как бы плакатами, это чересчур политизировано.
Those who speak Azerbaijani communicate via posters. This is more politicized.
Русскоязычная более информационна.
While Russian-speaking community is more informative.
Ситуация с двумя блогерами арестованными, она, к счастью, носит пока единичный характер.
Luckily, the situation with two arrested bloggers is the unique case.
И после этого случая именно правительство заявило, что будет придерживаться норм Евросоюза по контролю над интернетом.
And the government said that they would follow the norms of European Union in these cases.
Когда Европейский Союз выработает какой-нибудь документ или общие правила игры.
Of course, when European Union will issue some document on the policy, how to do with it.
А так, если говорить о процентном соотношении,
Talking about the percentage,
в Азербайджане, конечно, больше читателей, чем писателей.
there are more those who read than those who write in Azerbaijan.
И развитие интернета, я считаю, что это будет развитие и гражданского общества, и вообще общества в Азербайджане, и это нам необходимо.
And I assume that the development of internet will provide the development of civil society in Azerbaijan.
And in general society of our country.
Call upon two participants here who are in the public, and then we'll open up to the questions. I hope we'll get some extra minutes since we didn't start on time, but I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to ask Brian Herbert from, what did you say? Great. Well, so Brian works for Ushaidi. He's going to tell us a little bit more about this platform created in Kenya, but who has now reached a global audience, and give us a couple of examples.
Sure. So I'm Brian Herbert. I work with Ushahidi. I'm a software developer. And for anyone who doesn't already know, we're a free and open source software platform that collects information from citizen reports using SMS, email, Twitter, you name it. And it allows that information to be mapped and shared with other organizations using open standards. So our software has been used by organizations in both good and bad situations, everything from covering citizen reports during elections to civil strife, natural disasters, so on and so forth. So my question is more of a devil's advocate sort of question because, of course, I believe in my own software. So Esraa, you said that you were planning on using Ushahidi in Egypt. Thank you for the plug, by the way. And given the fact that we haven't heard of any citizens who have reported to Ushahidi who have been taken to jail by any governments, do you think it's worth the risk for the people who are going to be reporting to the system like given the fact that the government has been arresting bloggers, and then more generally for everybody else on the panel, do you think it's worthwhile for people to be commenting on blogs and things like that, given the risk that's been that you've told us about today?
Bloggers as I understand your questions, that is, you mean that is you want the bloggers and the citizens who reporters for the Ushahidi platform not be known as the public. I think it will be better, but I think it's not a problem for us in Egypt. Hello? All of us write in Facebook or even in Twitter by its name, by our names. We don't change our names. But the problem is with us is for blocking the platform, or for we are dependent in this program by sending us SMS or photos or videos from what happens in the streets in this elections day. We are afraid of cutting the connection between the platform and the citizens, and the reporters of citizens cannot be reached to the platform. I think no one can. We are now using to market this website, so all the Egyptian citizens can participate in this Ushahidi. So I don't think that the government will use it to arrest all Egyptians in that day. But I think all Egyptians will send things. But the tool the government will use is closing this platform or cutting or stopping the mobile connection in that day. I think so.
Anyone else from the panel wants to step in? No? Okay. I'm going to call on Kathleen Reen with Internews. She also wanted to make some remarks. I'm going to ask her to be very, very short because we're running out of time.
Thank you very much. First of all, I just wanted to very quickly thank each and every one of the panelists for presenting their own sovereign view and their own sovereign experience. It reminds us that there's a continuing strange paradox as we consider the future of freedom of expression, and that is that there are extraordinary similarities between all of your stories and all of your experiences, but there is also a continuing requirement for deeply tailored and very specific approaches that reflect the amazing differences in the architecture of the development of the internet in your countries. We're observing in our work that this is a continuing phenomenon. It's something that is racing around the world. It's moving faster than we can keep up with. And one of the relationships to it is the question of how an elite emergent class around the world of deeply knowledgeable experts on freedom of expression do a better job of establishing and building a conversation that as yet hardly exists at the national level. And that is, and we note, a real paucity, an absence of discussion between law enforcement, judiciaries, courts, hackers, journalists, bloggers, and freedom of expression advocates. We note that there are, right at the highest levels, and there have been many references to the IGF, some discussions going on and an attempt to widen those, but as of yet, a deep absence of a truly global conversation on this question.
Thank you, Kathleen. You want to, Carlos, you want to say something about it? Shortly.
Yeah. Hello? Yeah, good. Okay. I can tell you the experiences of Brazil in this in this regard. We have, commonly when we announce that there is some sort of censorship or repression regarding mostly content on the internet, you try to, it's common to see that the problem is simplified by just referring to the government. The government censors, or the government took down a site, or the government has done this or that. And I saw in one of the presentations, in one of the workshops, that there are 30 countries which are counted as countries which do that, no, without any specificity, like they do exactly the same, like if they had created a specific informal Budapest Convention for themselves and they follow that specific Budapest Convention in repressing people on the internet. It's not true. Of course, there are specificities, many specificities. And one of them is the extent to which these processes against certain contents or certain practices or certain rings which thrive on the internet are confronted with through a due process of law in, say, a representative democracy. And then there are lots of different cases and different approaches, etc., and different practices. So this, I think, is a very rich thing to analyze all these processes. It's very difficult to follow them all. But Brazil has very interesting cases. For instance, when you read The Economist or read Google statistics, you see that we are leaders. We are leaders in many things, no? Like samba, carnival, sporting airplanes, sporting orange juice, and so on. Well, I think we're going to be one of the leaders in oil exploration as well. My God. Okay. But we are also leaders in takedown of content on the internet, it seems. Wow, Brazil, big censorship, Lula government, representative democracy, and so on. But what happens? The law of big numbers. We have, I think people from Google can confirm, but we have 70% of users of Orkut, which in many countries is not used at all. But Brazil, people are crazy about Orkut. They use it extensively. And this group of users, millions of people, is a prime target for prostitution rings, for child abuse rings, etc. Is a space which is open, no? And for defamation, no? And I learned from Google that most of the cases are regarding defamation and due process of law regarding the attempts to take down these contents or enter into off-court agreement regarding this defamation. No? For instance, the right to reply, etc. So it's very complex. It's not simple. And it's carried by, there is no central government or say that says, close down the access to YouTube, never. This happened in a very specific case in which a judge considered that the content that had to be taken down through a due process of law actually was not taken down. And this happened for, I don't know if a few hours or a few days and returned immediately. So just to point out that all this is very complex, we have to be very careful in putting everybody in the same basket. We shouldn't do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have a sort of a red light flashing at me because we're running out of time. Bob, do we have some time to actually open up to public? Yeah. So now, if any of you wants to step in, ask questions, please do so. We have microphone here, here, and right here. So, yeah, we have someone here. Oh, well, okay. First arrived, first served. So
okay, I'm Jiranut from Thailand. Thanks, Supinya, for mentioning about me. And I would like to say, like, actually, for me, I think it's my condition is better than many people in Thailand. Many of them are being arrested in the quiet manner, or maybe not the arrest, just like come to home and like do a kind like the put the pressure for the questions, and the people will feel so like very, very, very afraid about that, and they feel they can do nothing, just like keep quiet. For me, I can have a chance to speak up here and still kind like I still think like for me it's a better condition than the others, and to reflect about the thing that all the panelists speak at the panels. I think online and offline worlds is really, really connect. You see in the country that the democracy still has a problem, the expression has a problem. It's reflected in the online world. Right now in Thailand, the people know more about like it's quite dangerous for them to post something into the websites, into the Facebook, in the platform. But they still express. If you come to walk in the street in Bangkok, you will saw the graffiti. If you come in the public toilet, you will saw some message. So the people, they will find a way to express their feeling, their thoughts, their view. And one thing that I think as an international community here, we should like guarantee and ensure that spreading the word, spreading the feeling, spreading the view, it should not be a crime. It's harmful sometimes, it hurts sometimes, but it's not a crime. We should ensure this. And in terms of like internet as a platform for people to use the technologies to sharing, to do things, I agree with the Brian that maybe we should find a solution of the technology to fix about this instead of a kind like the suppression in many ways that people face. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the panel wants to react to that, or shall we go to the... So let's go to the next speaker then, please.
Hi, my name is Anya. I'm from the Center for Internet and Society in Bangalore. To clear any confusion, I'm not Indian, but I've lived in India for almost a decade. And I want to share some experiences. I work with social movements in India that are actually very reluctant to engage with the internet very closely. And I wanted to come back to the question Lucie raised about international solidarity and share some experiences that are very different and that kind of criticize the framing of the debate that we talked about a little yesterday as well. I think there is a tendency, even yesterday in this conference, to put Western democratic countries against authoritarian developing countries and to largely reduce the debate on freedom of expression to censorship. And that too in very specific contexts. I don't know how many of you have seen the long essay by Sami Ben Garbia about the political economy of that particular phrasing, in which he argued that it actually works against the interest of many Arab bloggers if that whole debate on censorship becomes linked too closely with certain governments, as has been the case in recent times. And so his argument, he himself is a Tunisian blogger in exile in Holland, is that it actually physically endangers a lot of people. I recommend everybody to read that essay. We also talked a bit yesterday about how important it is, especially maybe in a democratic developing country, if you talk about freedom of expression, to actually have a substantive understanding of freedom of expression, you do need to look at things like access to the internet as a right, access to knowledge as a right. And so it was a bit disappointing yesterday to see European governments defend ACTA, which I think is not just about IP enforcement, but actually about shifting IP regimes further to the right in the context of the internet. For many people in developing countries who still have to get online, this is going to change or mean that they will enter the internet in a very different way than we do, and the internet will be a very different environment. I'm sorry for being lengthy, but there were specifically about this phrasing to give examples of what it does in reality. One example is the recent BlackBerry controversy, where several countries wanted access to data that was transmitted through BlackBerry. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates wanted access, so did India. it was really interesting for me to see the Western media immediately phrasing this issue as an attack on freedom of expression. But the only countries that were highlighted and definitely in the headlines in the media were Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. So basically, India wasn't really talked about, which wasn't surprising because you can't have the same phrasing of it being an attack on freedom of expression if you take India into account as well. If you look at India, you have to start to ask the question, is there perhaps a security issue? And then, of course, you can have the larger debate about the balance between security and freedom of expression, which I think is urgently needed in many countries, including in India. But for me, what it meant was I ended up defending the Indian government in that particular instance because it was put in this very black and white way. And so I ended up saying, well, if the US has access, why not India? And I would have loved to have had a debate on the balance between freedom of expression and security in India, but this did not become an occasion to do so because of the framing. And the second example, very briefly, just from movements particularly, there is a grassroots movement in India, which some of you might have heard of, which wanted, it's a tribal group that had a sacred mountain, and Vedanta, a company, wanted to mine that mountain, which means the mountain would disappear. The struggle has been going on for about 4 years. The Dongria Kont, the tribe on the consideration, has been extremely militant, and they've been saying, you can kill us, we will not leave. And the government at some point started to realize that they were serious. It's very easy to exoticize this story because the Dongria Kont really look like the Western imagination of a tribe. In any case, to cut a long story short, in the end this was picked up by the Western media, and there were some celebrities who got involved. And it was really painful. In the end, the clearance for Vedanta to mine has been withdrawn. The Western support undoubtedly has helped. But in all the Western media, what happened was a real objectification of that tribe. None of the local struggles were ever mentioned. None of the local groups who have been fighting these battles, and I'm not even talking about national Indian groups, but people on the ground have ever been addressed. So in terms of international solidarity, I think it's very important that we start to have these debates in much more nuanced ways than we do at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. So we basically, thank you for this great intervention. We basically have 2 more questions we can take, really short.
Can I just make a couple of very quick comments in response to that? First of all, I think actually if you look at the Western media coverage of the RIM controversy, you will see a great deal of coverage out of India. And I'm happy to share that with anybody who wants to see the clips that came out of India. And the actual focus was on national security. It was very clearly on national security. Second, we are going to have a session later this afternoon in which this very question is going to be raised about the balance between national security and freedom of expression. So we'll be able to discuss this further later.
Right. So if there's anyone else who wants to make a comment or ask a question, or I think we're going to wrap up this session unless anyone on the panel wants to add something. Carlos, you're good. Supinya, you want to say one last thing?
Yes, I think if we really can find a solution to balance a compromise between upholding civil liberty, including free expression, and somehow protecting national security, as the government claimed, that would be a good solution for countries like Thailand and other countries. So we're working back at home, and we believe in power of communication and power of internet. That allow every people to discuss, at least even though we cannot find an absolute or final answer, but if we have a platform to discuss about this, and if the government would listen and international movement could help a country like Thailand to entering this kind of debate, I think it would be really helpful, and also for other countries, for the rest of the world.
We all look forward to the next panel on cyber security and national security. It's going to be really interesting. Do you want to add something to close really shortly?
Сказать, что не свободу слова надо подводить под какой-то баланс. все остальное надо подводить под свободу слова. Пусть остальное все балансирует с ним.
I would like to say that the freedom of expression shouldn't be leveled under some other issues, but all other issues should be equalized to the freedom of expression.
Вот главный принцип, который, я думаю, что поможет развитию и свободы слова, и демократии, и гражданского общества.
I assume that this is the main principle which could help to develop the civil society and all the rest.
If we need balance, for example, somebody else has to be balanced with freedom speech. Not freedom speech has to be balanced with something another.
Thank you. Esraa, one last word or you're good? Yeah? Okay, well, thank you everyone for your attention. And I think we're going to move to the coffee break over there before the next panel. Thank you.